in 2020. But unfortunately, okay, so let us now start with a Carl Flesch quote, or it's a description of a Carl Flesch quote that Rolland wrote. Progress depends first, just two things. First, on an awareness and eradication of one's own faults. And second, on the learning of new materials and repertoire and skills. That's what we're going to be talking about. So what does that mean? Progress depends on awareness and eradication of one's faults. It requires some long-range planning. The student has to have somebody who can recognize what the faults are and has to make a plan for the student. Often it will not produce immediate results, and that's going to depend on the extent to which there is a fault. How long has it been a fault? Chief concern is the problem of movement, always, and can result in dramatic improvement in the student's plan. That's the eradication and awareness piece. The progress for learning new materials and skills, it is a most often used strategy by teachers. This is where we give kids new stuff to try. Let's try this, let's try that, let's play this new tune, let's learn vibrato. Those are the things that we do as teachers very comfortably, but it often doesn't produce good results, and also not even short-term satisfaction. So you know, if you want to try to teach vibrato and you think that it's going to work the way Samantha showed it today, like go here, do this, now go here, and now suddenly pick up the bow and you know, it doesn't quite happen that way, and the satisfaction may not be there if those faults are interfering with the skills. And it also often does not result in dramatic improvement. So here is another thing that is important. Review. He says reviewing old repertoire and reviewing old techniques is something that is absolutely necessary in how we teach. So it reminds me of being a mom of two kids who went to Suzuki programs and had to review book one when they were book two players. And the teachers we had for both of them on violin and on cello, they understood how to say that to a kid. It's a little magic when a teacher says, play book one like a book two person now. You know, that's the difference between now you just have to play book one again in your practice. And you know the story about Japan. I don't know if it still goes on now. I mean, the cultural change since my kids were little, but it used to be that all kids in Japan learning violin in the Suzuki method had to play all the books up to the point where they were every day. That was the story. That was the encouragement by the teachers to the parents in those days. I just went, what? No. Because I knew that I couldn't get the result of the better artistry out of book one when this one had figured out stuff on her own anyway and was already pretty artistic. She was chosen at age 7 at Blue Lake Suzuki Camp to be the soloist on the stage in front of the whole, mass outdoor seating area. It was difficult to teach at your first years because she always could just do everything. The step-by-step stuff wasn't ingrained yet. She didn't remember. She was 3 when she started, and how did she learn how to hold the instrument? That was a problem. So us being able to understand how the review process works and do it in a reasonable way for the students, and that may mean something different for everybody. It may be that the whole group does the review together when they're with you, but what do they do when they're home, and how much can you expect when they're home? We had that conversation with some of you already, and depending on the culture of students and family backgrounds that you're teaching. So now I want to talk then, the next thought here, the concept is habituation. Do you know what that means, habituation? It's basically developing a habit, okay? And we have habits that are faulty and habits that are good. Rolland says it's basically the establishment of new motor responses, developmental. So I want to make sure there's a distinction between developmental habituation, that's the new stuff that we teach them, and the remedial, which is the old stuff that we're trying to change. Okay? Developmental is establishing new responses built on undisturbed ground. I love that image of being a gardener, and actually he has an actual quote. A good string teacher, like a fine gardener, must plan for good growth patterns. I just planted my tomatoes. My husband sent me a picture yesterday of the first cherry tomato that just blossomed. I get this when I read about gardeners. Must plan for good growth patterns. I couldn't have gotten that tomato to grow if I hadn't gotten the fertilizer, and it's a hydroponic indoor garden. I'm going to try to do it year round now. Tomatoes all year round. And figuring out what seed to plant and how many seeds to put. I only wanted one plant to grow, and I had to put 6 seeds in there, and then I had to destroy those other babies to get the one to grow. That's what we do when we teach. We have to figure out this pathway that it takes to do this development of our students. This is the easy part, by the way. Okay, feels new but not wrong. When students try something new, it won't feel wrong to them. It'll just feel new. That's different than when you try to change them into something else from what they've already gotten a habit of. That feels wrong. So there's a difference between this new feeling and this wrong feeling. And it has to be done slowly, carefully, especially at first. Student develops good habits. Goals are external. We play in tune. That's an external goal. We can see what it is. We can hear what it is. They might produce a good tone. That's an external goal. Yes, good tone. These are all the developmental things we're trying to accomplish. They might memorize a piece. Those are external goals. Now, what is remedial? That's establishing new motor responses, just like developmental. That's the only thing that's similar. The other things is that it's a replacement of faulty actions. So the remedial teaching is trying to get rid of a habit and build a new thing in its place. And so Rolland calls this, I'm going to call it by a new name. I used to call it like unlearn the old stuff, learn the new stuff, and develop the habit of new good stuff. I just didn't have a really quick way of saying that. But from now on, I will always, you're the first to hear this, say it as IFR. So if you want to write down capital letters, IFR, and here's what it means. Identify the fault. If you can't identify the fault, you're not going to get anywhere with helping them fix it. Okay, so that's the first one. F is that the student has to feel the fault. And that's a hard process. That, to me, is one of the hardest things. They don't think it feels wrong to do that bow hand that we just all laughed at. They think that feels right. And we have to remember that all the while we're teaching these kids who have problem issues. And then the R part is replace the fall with a new action. So if you can remember IFR and just keep that as sort of a guiding principle in all of your teaching, because it will mostly be the case that that's what.
Can you go over that one more time? I missed the F part.
Oh yes, I will. I will. So I is identify the fault. F is feel. The student has to feel the fault. That part, as I said earlier, is the hardest thing. How do I get a student to feel like this is wrong when they're playing like this all the time? They've been doing it for a long time. That's the problem. That's why it's called habituation. That's why it feels right to them. Just like if we do something in our lives of, let's just say posture is an issue. Okay, I'm going to a physical therapist on this arm, and every single time she says, now do some weights, or now we're gonna stretch the arm, and now you're gonna hold it with your thumbs up to the count of whatever, and then I have to do it with the thumbs down, yikes, and that's when I'm laying flat, so I'm going against gravity and all of that. Every single time she has me do anything, she takes her hands, if she's working on my shoulder area, and she pushes just the gentlest pressure down and back. And I go, oh, I have a habit of not having really good posture. And she says, that's part of my problem here. And so, oh my gosh, look at everybody going. It feels so can hardly see it. It's standing still, and then it's going down and back. Contract your scapula. It says scapular contraction. And relax it, and do it again. And relax it, and do it something like 3 times a day. At first it was 10, now I could probably do 50 at a time because I've gotten a lot stronger. I had such weakness back there, and that's also part of my problem. So we don't even know what the faults are in our own bodies. How can we expect that a student who's learned some faulty action to figure it out? They can't. It's up to you to figure those things out for them. And how easy is that when you have a group of 20 sitting in front of you, each with their own faults? And sometimes generalizing, we can say, well, I don't know about this vibrato thing. Everybody looks wonky on that, okay? But everybody's problem might be different within vibrato. So, it's complex. This is a complex subject. So IFR, identify, feel, and replace. That's a really good thing for you to take away, if nothing else, for today. So I think some of this I don't have to say because I really want to make sure I get to these little exercises that I want to have you try. Oh, the idea of being remedial is not external. As I mentioned about the developmental things, they're external things like playing in tune and holding the instrument properly and making a good tone. The remedial process is not an external process. It has to be internal. It's a self-oriented sort of process of, in order to succeed, the student must be able to feel it. That's weird. That's not like, okay, just make a better tone. That's easy, but how can I talk to you about your first finger that we talked about, okay? There was a little bit of I don't know how to say that. You can't even do it because he's already remediated himself, but I bet you've thought about it a lot. This finger was doing this, and he's showing you this. Okay, so when I saw that we were doing something else, and I saw your hand go that way, I said, oh, try to see if you can make that this shape instead of this knuckle collapsing. When that happened, it wasn't me trying to help you make a better sound. The external process of teaching was gone from what I could help you with, but to show you that there's something wrong and say, that's something you have to do now. That's what this is. You have to do this. I'm not going to be able, sometimes I joke with my students, to take your finger home with me and work on it. Or to even if it's just in school, to just say, okay, it's my turn to help fix you. It isn't my job to fix you. It's my job to identify the problem, but to help you to feel it. And so that's a different.
And Joan, just the last paragraph of the first page of this remedial training, Rolland writes that I think it really so crucial. And Tyler, we were talking about this yesterday, about how you get a kid excited to buy into the change that you're proposing. And the teacher's first task is to offer a vivid idea of what is needed for improvement and to motivate the student so that he becomes convinced that changes are necessary. As is the case with psychoanalysis, unless the subject is anxious and willing to undergo and affect a change, there is little hope for success. So you have to be the teacher has to be a great salesman on why this is necessary and motivate them. So.
We used to laugh about that. Okay, so I taught at the ISYM summer camp in my day, well past, I was the age of those kids. So after I started teaching for several years, I finally was invited to be a sectional coach or even something like that. Camp counselors were my colleagues too, and so we would show the films, and we would show somewhere in one of the films it said, or maybe they eliminated. I'm thinking some of the film footage is eliminated because I remember this phrase and I didn't hear it here, but it's in the film somewhere. We asked the student if they wanted to change, and the student said yes. And then they moved on and talked about how they fix things. And the teachers were looking at each other. We had all the violins and violas watching a film, and the kids were, oh, okay, they were okay with it, and teachers would look at each other and go, and things have changed massively since then, and so you have to somehow, that's what the feel the fault thing is all about. No matter what era it is, it applies. Do you feel your fault? Do you feel your fault? Do you feel your fault? And I will help you find it if you're having, you know you have a problem but you don't know where it is, I'll help you find where that is. But it's gotta be you. It's a self-directed understanding and reminders and whatever else you can do to use imagery to impact the student's way of thinking. And that's huge. That's a very difficult thing to do. Thanks for reading that, because I had that underlined and I just skipped right over it. I don't know why I did. Here's another thing. Remediation of older players. Rolland has a phrase, if players are over the age of 40 or so, these aren't his words exactly, I think these are my words, perhaps they've discovered ways of functioning that are not optimum, but that work for them. Now, it's not working for you if you've incurred an injury or if you have pain a lot. So think about that in your own playing. And so if you are over 40, and I know you're not all over 40 in this room, don't think that 40 is a magic age. I had people, when I would say this to them, because Rolland had generally discovered that people have, they're actually what he's saying is you're really smart to figure out how to get around the instrument. Let's say your teacher told you to bring your arm under to reach the highest note on the lowest string. But you figured out that if you do like push the instrument way over there, or bring it, no, wrong direction, bring it way in front of you, maybe you can reach it better from over here. No, it'd be over there, wouldn't it? Over there is easier because my arm is more open here. It's a little easier to reach on that side, but I might not reach it with a very good technique, but I can make it happen. And it's not injuring me because we hardly ever go there in literature, something like that. Don't mess with that. But 40 is not the magic age because teachers would come up to me after I would say this and say, well, I'm over 40, but I want to know. You know, it's like you can't learn after you're 40. No, that's not the message he's trying to say. He's just trying to say that if you have solved the problems that you know you may have, then keep doing it. Chin rest shapes, shoulder rest decisions, that comes into play in this category as well. Are they working for you? And if they feel comfortable, I had a Rolland person, I didn't tell them I was a Rolland student, and I went up, it was an ASTA conference and they were presenting on chin rest. I think it was one of Lynn Dennick's friends. I'll just tell you. I took I waited to the end and I wanted to go up and see if what she thought Rolland said was working after I had lessons with him and he said it was working. I wasn't trying to be mean. I was trying to learn something. And so I said, could you just check my placement of my instrument? And I put it up there and she said, oh, you need to pull that button farther more towards your neck. And I did what she told me to do and I had to go like this. And I started playing and I thought I was going to die after 3 notes. It hurt me so bad all around here. Now, did I need the remedial teaching for that? Or was that a principle of getting the button near the center of the neck that she was misunderstanding? And that's what I decided it was. Because my button goes here. It doesn't go here. It goes over here when I'm comfortable. And Rolland saw me play that way and encouraged me to get around as long as I had this going and as long as I had, even with the Kuhn shoulder rest, I still had flexibility. Did I ever have pain? No. Was I able to play the instrument with beauty sometimes? And so those are the ways you know whether it's something that needs to change or something that's going to change.
Joanne, you said you wanted to do show some drills and we have like 8 minutes.
No.
Yeah, so
okay.
think you
All
better.
right, so
I'm a timekeeper.
yes, I could go on and on. So I want to talk about the 3 approaches that he says. Oh, manual assistance. Let me just address that. He definitely says that one of the things you should be doing is manual assistance. In our day and age, you may not be able to or you may not want to. And I'm going to say that Rolland was, above all teachers I ever had, respectful of the student. Even though we see him kind of yank the kid across the Yeah, the screenshot. You know, that, to me, and I did talk, I talked to Andre Granat about that, and he said, oh yeah, that was just because the cameras were there. Some of the stuff that we see is, they were all kind of nervous about the cameras being there. He would, if he wanted me to swing my arm, he didn't take my elbow by hand on my skin. He always would wait until I was wearing a sleeved shirt and he would pull this way. And so he was directing me, and that is manual assistance, but he's not touching my body. And he was especially keen about being careful with the young women, I think, just because it's logical. You care about your people and you want to teach them things, but you also want to be extremely careful and respectful, not going behind, you know, we were in studios and the door closed and there was no glass on the window, and that's just the way it was in those days. But now I wouldn't go in a practice room with an individual student without glass on the door, but also I would keep the door slightly open. And whatever your circumstances are, use manual assistance as much as you can, like maybe just touch each side of the student's shoulders to get them to understand weight transfer, or I especially love the move the scroll to get the student to move, because those are not invading their personal space as much. I had a high school student one time who said, oh, your perfume smells really good, and I was helping tune. I was turning her fine tuners, and she talked about my perfume, and then I thought, oh my gosh, my hand is in her face. You know, it didn't even occur to me. I was just doing my job. So be sensitive about those things. Okay, so the 3 approaches to remedial teaching to solve the problems. That's what's not in the film. Number 1, recognize the faulty action and replace it with desirable actions. That's your IFR. Recognize the faulty action, replace it with desirable ones. You just have to know what you're going to do with it. What are the replacements, okay? Second, ideation. Ideation is establishing vivid mental images and kinesthetic sensations. I'm going to get rid of kinesthetic sensations for a moment. Just vivid mental images of the desirable patterns, and practice them in your mind. That reminds me of Music Man. This is the think system. Would you all think of an action that you thought was faulty in your playing this week, and think about it faulty, and now what's the good one? Mental imagery. Look at this. I'm seeing some bodies move a little bit because you're thinking, but you're also kind of fix. If you're, it's my shoulder. I'm doing this. Thinking about that. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3 is actually using kinesthetic sensations, practicing the actions that are similar motion. So when we talk about vibrato, the similar motion is shaking sawdust. That's what that would be. Okay, so that's the one that we use for younger children. Which one is of the 3 would be used only for the older, more mature mind? You know, let's just say a 10th grader versus a 5th grader. Of those 3, which would be used only for the older students? Ideation is so hard. You have to be so able to focus. So ideation, and he says that. He says this is for more mature students. So the first one and the last one are for everybody, recognizing the action, replacing it with a desirable one on the instrument, and then practicing actions that are similar. And so use whichever of those 3 will work for your students, and if one of them doesn't work, try another one. I think that's a lesson I learned so long ago. Okay, so now we have just enough time to do our fun activity. Will you please do motion? We're going to do letter C, which is practicing actions that require similar motions. Okay, this is going to be the 3rd way. Show me without an instrument an action you would do to help train a student to play fast détachés. And it has to have sort of a thing. It could be this, but it needs to be something that's similar in life, an image of something similar to a rapid data share. Ooh, knocking on a door, there's one. Throwing water off your fingers. Those are quick actions, yes, and it could be different angles, it could be, depends on what the student's fault is. So you would try to help them with rehabituating the movement by things that make sense. Okay, how about shifting? What's something you could imagine them doing? Shifting, she went. Yeah, I mean really, these are the ways you can think, and you can have so much fun with this one. Kids will help you with the imagery. They'll give you ideas for sure. Some you may not want. Okay, and now play with a relaxed bow hand. Play with a relaxed bow hand. They're having tension in their bow hands. What can you do to get them to relax the bow hand? What are you thinking? Floppy. I think when I saw that, I thought what I say often to my students is like wet noodles coming out of a pot, you know. So imagery, anything that you think is going to work. So that's a fun activity and very helpful to you to get ideas from them. Okay, we're ready for our think, pair, share. Do you know what think, pair, share is? Yeah, okay. Cooperative learning, I love using in the classroom. I would like you to think right now about one case study. I was going to do 3 different ones, but I'll just do one. Do we want a student who's only played for 1 year, or do we want 8th graders, or do we want an adult student?
8th graders.
8th graders. I bet a lot of you are going to find benefit in whatever age you're teaching. Okay, these are 8th graders. This is a group of 8th graders who learned vibrato to just wiggle. There are lots of problems with their wiggling. What would you do using one or more of the 3 Rolland approaches? You might want to think about only one of your 8th grade students actually, but you have the group and they're all having problems. You remember the approaches? Some of you are taking notes, I love it. Okay. Approach number 1 is using the instrument to just change the action, the faulty action. Number 2 is just mental images. Number 3 is practicing other actions that work. Okay? Anybody want to? Oh, wait, you're thinking right now. Never mind. Everybody got something in mind? Everybody's saying yes. I can see it in your faces. Okay. So now, the pair part. So that was the think part. We're going to pair up, and we're going to share out. I want for let's see what time it is. 30 seconds, the first person gets to share their ideas, and 30 seconds, the second person gets to share their ideas. And I would like for the youngest person to go first share. Okay, so find a person to pair with. It doesn't matter where you are. Find out who's the youngest. And when I say go, I'm going to time it for 30 seconds. Hold on. You want to everybody have a timer? All right, don't start talking yet. I'm going to time you. Ready, set, go. You have 30 seconds. Youngest person.
I was thinking for 8th grade, like a salt shaker, ideas like that. So that seems almost like a kinesthetic.
Halfway done, first person.
So maybe violin as a salt shaker. You don't do the attack.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Older person, start talking. Yeah. Halfway done, older person. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop. Everybody go back to wherever you were sitting. What were you going to say? Oh, yeah. Think, pair, share. I use in the classroom all the time. And I have, guess what? I was the student who sat, I had 60 kids in my 6th grade classroom in an elementary school. I was never wanting to be in the front. I never wanted to be in the back. I just wanted to be in the middle somewhere. But I never, as an elementary student, volunteered in those days. And so I decided when I was in college probably that I was going to start sitting more toward the front because I had so much, I was bursting with ideas and nobody could ever hear me. I was a frustrated child. You can see it in my face now. It lives on. And I was frustrated because I didn't have the courage to do this and speak in front of my peers. And so think peer share solves that problem. Did the teacher have to hear me? No. I didn't care who heard me. I just wanted somebody to hear what I had to say. Now, it will matter when it comes to standardized testing, and I have to have the right answer. I knew that too, though. I could figure that out for myself because I was already figuring that out for myself. But that important thing of giving kids a venue that feels safe and comfortable to say something that's on their mind is huge in their psychological development. And we're talking about their psychology, the psychology of developing children right now. So don't ever underestimate the power of doing some of the other cooperative learning strategies. There's tons of them. There's like pass the ideas around. If you have 4 people and you want to come up with a poem, the first person writes the first line of the poem and passes it to the second person, and then they write the second line. Of course, the first line could be anything, and the second line has to rhyme, and then the third person, and then the fourth person, and then they have 4 lines of a poem, and then they talk it over, and then they start it over again and do it again. It gives everybody the same amount of responsibility. Now, some will be more brilliant rhymers than others, and so the ultimate goal isn't to have a publishable poem. The ultimate goal is to get kids to think. What would go here? What continues this story? So it's the same thing when we teach. We have to be thinking about how they learn and what's going to be the best thing we can do for them. And so you have 3 ideas from Paul Rolland here. I hope you'll use them. You've probably used at least 1 and 3, and maybe you've done the think system. I never thought in a million years to use the think system. I joked about the think system to my parents, and Music Man was a big, fun musical. My dad loved it, 76 Strombones, and we had a ton of enjoyment over that movie, but the think system was just a joke. It's real. It really can work, but for the right mature minds. And it really can change the way all of you are working to change curvies versus straights, whatever things free from excessive tension, shifting body weight, extending and being able to do it in a balanced way. Balance. So I hope that this has helped for you to come to a concluding moment of the whole pedagogy, because that's really what this remedial teaching is all about.
Yeah, and remember, Roland's belief that behind every beautiful resonant tone is a freely moving, balanced body. That's the, I think, go away sentence I'd love to share with all of you.
Okay, that's a great lead-in. Sam, do you have anything else to add?
No.
That's a great lead-in to, drum roll please, read. If you can, I hope it's readable.
Read it.
I'll read it to you. This is a quote that Lynn Denick said. Oh yes, here's something that Paul said. He said it often. If sound is created by movement, then the quality of the movement will determine the quality. I think it was last year's Rolland workshop, and I hadn't heard this before, so I went onto my art desk, and I have brush pens that I love to use for calligraphy. I have lots of nibs, and I'm good at it, but the brush pens are my favorite thing. And using color, I was talking to you about color, I had to figure out, I've done a bunch of calligraphy classes with a very famous calligrapher, so he's all about color and how to mix it and how to make it work in a phrase like this. And so I thought, well, I'm going to see how long it's going to take me. And by golly, it takes me hours. It's like 10 hours to do a marriage certificate that's got some art and it's got the names, and I use 4 different scripts, and that's what I did for my husband and an anniversary one time. And gold leaf, the real stuff, and I'm into it. But this took me no more than an hour. I was so motivated to do this that I knew exactly what colors I wanted to start And so this is going to be one of the door prizes for the first one. Okay, I'm going to show you each of them and lay them out here. And then whoever gets the first prize will get to pick their prize. I'll lay it here. The second one is another phrase that I did as a calligraphy and art watercolor is my thing piece for her mom at her birthday, which she's a violinist. She's a friend of Samantha's. Katie Carter is her name. And her mom was having a birthday, and it is Where Words Fail, Music Speaks. Hans Christian Andersen. These are all prints, by the way. I can't keep making the originals over and over. And so I did that for Kate. So that's door prize number 2. Not in any particular order, by the way. And number 3 is one that I did for the DuPage Symphony Orchestra, which I play in, for their 70th anniversary celebration they just had, and it was a gala fundraiser. So I said, well, I'll do a calligraphy piece, and I did it on like this big, framed, had 3 different scripts, including the Latin of the Neumes. Okay, this is tiny, but it's worth it because it's got more in it than the others. This is called, this is a Victor Hugo quote, "Music expresses that which cannot be said and on which it is impossible to be silent." So, that is lots of design up here, but that's not gold leaf, just in case you are wondering. It's glitter glue. I love using that stuff. Okay, so those are 3. And the other 2 are not so never seen before or impressive, but what the heck, we have some extras, and I thought, let's just bring a green cleaning cloth. That's number 4. And number 5, maybe some value in this, a brand new violin rosin from the European String Teachers Association. So there we go. All right, so here's what we'll do. Sam, do you want to read these off? Sure. Of here. Let's see if I can find where I wrote them. Oh yeah, and by the way, nobody will go home without a gift. It's not just 5. We have other things. Should I show those to you? No thanks. I'll sit. Do you want to get the cards out? While those 2 were slaving away every night at the Airbnb trying to get their outlines ready, I've done this many more times, and so I always prepare, and sometimes I come up with a new idea even. And so I was able to use my little artistic skills to make little cards for each of you to take one. You will find buried in the flowers either a violin viola or a cello bass. So feel free to pick whatever you'd like, and they're different colors, and they're all bespoke. I learned that in England. That is unique. Okay. So, by the way, I wanted to say before we go any further, is Jennifer in the house? Okay, that she got her gift already. So I would have started with her with a presentation, but I've already done that because I wanted to just spend the time with you guys. And she had her choice of these things, and she picked the one she wanted. And I think she was it this one? Yeah, she took this. I made 2 copies of this, and she took the other ones. Okay, so that's check. You can check them off as you go if you want. And now you can just say who is going to get this next.
All right, so the first award goes to the person who traveled the farthest distance to get here. So,
you have to talk to each other, figure it out. Oh, she had the mileage. Say it again.
580-ish miles.
Anybody farther than that? Oh, Kari, come on up. Lucky you. You get to choose. Oh my gosh, what to choose?
person number 2 is the person who has taught in the most number of states.
Talk.
Amy. I got two.
I think it's Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, DC, Pennsylvania. Can't hold down a job.
Okay, prize number 3 goes to the person who has the first and last name that includes the most syllables total. So it'd be in honor of name rhythm.
Yes, we
So-
named it the Rolland rhythm game.
First and last. Okay, so raise your
And
hand.
no
if you
middle
have-
names though.
No middle names. Raise your hand if you've got 4 or more, 5 or more. Keep it up if you have 6 or more. Is that all? Oh, okay. And then keep it up if you have 7 or more. Oh yeah. All right, put your hand back up if you have 6 or more. 1, 2, 3. We've got 3 of them.
We have 6.
Mhm.
1, 2, 3.
2,
Hurry! Come on, you
All
say.
Do you have a preference?
I mean,
You can choose. I'll let you choose.
I don't think I could do much violence.
Well, rosin is rosin, but that's
You know that's true.
do that.
Sure.
All right. Okay.
Come up. Everybody should get a card.
Everybody who didn't get a prize, come and help yourself to choose whatever card you want,
Everybody gets one.
and yeah, we'll let them have first choice because they're all different. And if you want to flip through the stack,
Yeah, there's a stack there.
We're gonna go with blue. Card has my number on it.
And while we're all
Need to get a picture of everyone.
for sure. Yeah, I got that on my list.
There are cellos,
Yeah.
clarinets, and ninepins over here, I think.
These ones. I'll do. Oh wow.
Everybody else who didn't come up at the beginning, if you got your prize, you can also have a card.
Yes.
You're an original prize winner. Jennifer, you can come pick a card.
Come on up. I told everybody you got your prize already, but you can
Get a card.
everybody gets a color. Oh, to see if they're violins or cello. Do I have, not enough violins.
No, that's all. These are so pretty. They're all so pretty. I like the little bee in there too.
Yeah, that's,
Do you need a violin?
I don't think there are any violins left.
No, I
If
have
you
one in my
want-
hand.
If
I
you
was
want a
just.
violin, I'll make you one. I got more at home. I just didn't have enough time last night.
I know they're all. I was gonna say they're all good.
there's 2 cards left. Yeah, let's do
All
that.
right, there are 2 cards left, so we will give them to these people. We'll do 2 more questions. Who teaches the most different ages of students? Okay.
Well,
All right, so
talk about it.
talk about it.
My youngest is 7, my oldest is 79, 80.
72.
How many do you have?
85 years
Most
spread.
number of different ages.
I have 15.
And they're all different
They're all
ages?
different
Are they all different
Do you
ages?
think?
Most of them are probably junior high-ish.
I teach every age from 4 to 18, so I think you won.
Oh, you got 79. Okay. All right, come on up. Pick one more.
And the last prize, there's 2.
Yes.
2 cellos left here. All right, last prize is the most colorful case. If your instrument has the most colorful. So, there it is. Thing. Okay.
Let's do a vote.
Yeah,
Vote
okay.
on this one.
All right, Tyler, is that your case?
No, I know.
Okay, so
Now we got Lisa,
Lisa, Lou,
and get another one.
we have 2 of those. We have 3 different options. We have orange with stickers all over. Little and blue bits.
So,
Vote for
raise your hand for
one
one.
only. Raise your hand high so we can count. Orange, is that one? Yeah. That's very colorful. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
That's more than
And
half.
okay, you don't even get a choice, but there's
But it's a cello. It's a yellow cello case.
it matches the cello.
Matches the case.
That's great. All right, well, we need to talk to you about the society, Paul Rolland String Pedagogy Society, otherwise known as PRSPS. And the society was started about 5, 6 years ago, something like that. And the first conversation was who's going to be president, vice president, and all of that. And the second conversation was, what do we do? And what we do is develop a certification program. The reason for the society was to develop this program. And so what is this program? I've had some people ask about it. Who wants to start? Should I start? And then you guys
start.
fill
You're
in?
on the committee.
I was on the committee. Yeah, I'm on too many committees, hours and hours. I can't even begin to tell you how many hours it took, but you can imagine, I'm sure. But, so there's levels 1 through 4 that get you to the point of being certified as a Paul Rolland String Pedagogy Society certified teacher. That has whatever meaning you want to assign to it. It could mean that you want to put your certificate up on a wall and have students come to you and they see that you have this certification. It doesn't bring any money to you, I'm sorry to say. It does, however, bring a membership in the Paul Rolland Society, which actually happens after this one. After level 1, you will now have a certificate emailed to you, and it's electronic. The second level is electronic. The third level is electronic. The fourth level is my handwritten calligraphy of your name on a certificate. So that's the official certification point, and the other points we call endorsements. So you have endorsement level 1 now accomplished as of right now. So I'm going to be sending Mei Chang, who's head of the certification committee, your names with your emails, and she's going to send them to you probably within a week or 2. I would expect them to come. After certification level 4, there are 2 post-certification courses that I wrote, and wrote them because I'm a public school educator, and I thought, well, who's going to teach the levels 2, 3, 4 after all of us old people are gone? Well, there has to be some training in the teaching of teachers, because everything in levels 1 through 4 is teachers of children or students, I guess is a better way to say that. So I presenter training course and a mentor training course. The presenter training is the one I prefer that people take first, but it's written so that you could take either one of those or both. If you take one of them first, particularly if you take presenter training, you learn how to be a Rolland presenter in a conference, at ASTA, at international conferences. Because I've done so much of that, I kind of know what the rules are, but I also know how to write a plan. A lesson plan is very strange territory for some studio teachers who've never written lesson plans. So we have lively conversations, and often you will realize that the conversations help you think even more clearly about who's out there and who am I teaching. When we go to the ASTA conference, it could be, and it was with Suzuki Association this year, so we had people coming in who had no idea what Rolland Pedagogy was and no idea how to write, be a presenter or write a lesson plan. I know that going into that course, so we watch videos on the greatest speakers. Elocution is a part of it because you present yourself. It's technology, and especially when the pandemic hit, we had to really figure that one out. It's also about speaking clearly, having connection with the audience, and knowing something about them after they have been with you. And that's the hard part. That's the difficult one. We don't always know very much when we're presenting, especially to large groups. The second course, first half is the same as the first half of presenter. So 18 hours basically if it's an online situation and no more than 3 people per class. Actually, I've had one with 4. And so mentor training is half that many hours. Usually I figure 10 hours of training to become the teachers of levels 2, 3, and 4. That's what it's designed for. So that gives you the overview. Which one of those do you get paid for? Well, if you present at a conference that they want to pay you for, then you absolutely get paid by that organization. Do you have to have the presenter training to be allowed to present at SAA or ASTA? No, of course not. If you want to write a proposal to do Rolland Pedagogy in this elementary school classroom, absolutely your decision, and they'll be the ones to decide whether they want to accept it or not. We all know that. But if you want to be listed as a presenter on the Rolland website, then you have to have taken the course and passed it. The mentor training is it does bring you money. Okay, so if you are chosen by the society to teach one of the levels at some point, and we're at a sort of an interesting point in time of transition because we've always only had summer programs, and suddenly 2 years ago somebody wanted to do a level 2 in the fall, and there was one offered. And then we had summer again last summer, and now we're hearing from people who want to do level 4 in the fall or want to do level 2 and 3 in the spring semester. And so my guess is this is getting around. It's starting to get around, and more people who are getting this first experience and want to continue. And so I can't tell you when those trainings are always going to be, but I know for sure they'll be in the summers because that's how we started this program. And actually level 4 is
In a couple of weeks.
in a couple of weeks. It's usually pretty close to the Rolland workshop is this next week. That's the big one that has usually 12 presenters at. And we're all presenting at that one next week. It doesn't hurt to take it again, by the way, if you decide you want more and you just want to hear from other people than the 3 of us, because Jerry Fishbach will be there and Renata and some of the people that we've talked about.
There's a lot of like 12.
Yeah, it's usually about 12. And so that's the mentor.
One thing that you want to point out is that this committee that you belong, this group that you belong to, felt that it was important to, you can't just take level 1, 2, 3, 4 in quick succession because it's just too much information to absorb, and so they're offered in a backward sequence. So
yeah, so you're not going to do levels 1 and 2 in the same summer,
or 2, 3, 4.
We did allow that during COVID because there were just so few opportunities for teachers, and what we do like to say is have at least 3 months between them so that you have a chance to try some of these things out with your students and come with your questions. When you do, so the way it works is, level 1 is the overview. You just saw all 17 films. Wow, you know, your head is reeling. You're going to remember 3. I said to these guys, if you remember 3 things after this whole week, we'll be happy, because there's so much bombardment into your brain. Some of you have taken good notes, and you can watch the films, and you can read the book, and keep reading it, and keep watching it. But what we brought to you is what we could do for the amount of time we have together. After that, then, what was I going to say? Level 2, you will have no more than 6 people in a group. Therefore, you get to know your mentor really well in level 2, and it's between 11 and 13 hours of training. So remember, I said 18 for presenter training, but 11 and 13, it deals with the first third of the Rolland Teaching of Action book. And level 3 is the middle third, and level 4 is the last third, because you have to, as I mentioned earlier, you have to play a pre-instruction video. We're going to make sure your playing can model Rolland pedagogy. You have to teach at the end of each one of the levels a student, a person, a real person. Level 2, you can have one of the colleagues in the class be your student, even on Zoom. That's okay, but we're asking you to memorize a major action in the Rolland pedagogy in the first third of the book, which involves holding the instrument, holding the bow, and 2 to 3 preliminary steps to get ready for that, because we know that you're not going to hold the instrument yet if you don't know how to balance your weight, and maybe you want to do some bilateral motion or what, you know. Good teachers, you know what you have to do. And you have certain ones that you can choose for those actions. And level 3 then, designed for 3 people. I know that there have been some that have 4, but 3 people with a mentor who knows the pedagogy like we do is pretty fantastic experience. Each one of these levels is about $500, I think, at least online. I don't know if they're going to start to be more in person. I hope they will. And who knows what the cost will be at that point, but we haven't yet come to that point. And then level 4, also 3, and presenter 3, mentor 3. And basically the same price for every level. I think the workshop is slightly less than that because it's so many people, and that matters to the bottom line of the organization. Any questions about the organization? I don't want to go on about this stuff because it's really boring if you're not interested.
It's an interesting website to visit, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it mostly an American-based organization? Have you gone to other countries or continents?
Great question. Ida and I were in England, and we were actually, Joanne Irwin and I went a few years before Ida and I went, and they just wanted us to talk about Paul Rolland. And so they just had us do 1 hour or an hour and a half a day. And the rest of the day they were doing their summer school. That's what they call it for teacher professional development, like what this is. It's a summer school for them, and it's 1 week long. So then Joanne and I started talking and saying, well, why don't we just offer a level 1 if we could get some of that lunch 2 hours off that they have at lunchtime, like, you know, let's use some of that time, and let's use the coffee break time that's an hour long. You know, they have their schedule is just it's not like how we do things here anyway. And so we offered a level 1 in England, and Lynn Denick had offered one in London many years before that, and she also was invited by somebody because of the London experience to Madrid, and she was invited back again, and Lynn and Gail Rolland went to Madrid in 2016 was the last time they were there. And then Andres Ortiz, who runs that whole Madrid program, which by the way is fabulous. They had Paul Katz come in right after we were there 2 years ago, and they have American people and people from all over the world. And I went to Madrid because Lynn didn't want to go, or she couldn't go, or I'm not sure what the story was. So that summer I was with Ida in England, and then a couple weeks later I was in Madrid by myself teaching the whole 17 chapters. Boy, was I tired at the end of that week. But that has been done. I've been invited to Greece, and I've been invited by other people that I met in Wales. And I don't know, you know,
And
is it going to happen or not? But people from all over the world do come to the online stuff. So that's why we recorded all of these sessions, and we love to have it available for people to learn the pedagogy in that regard. Go ahead.
And in November, I'm going to be in Budapest doing Rolland I think I'm so thrilled to be taking this back to Budapest where it all started.
So South Africa, some of the best teachers I've ever met, just best in the sense that they already knew the stuff. I don't have to teach them anything, like you guys. Amazing how much you know about this. Because this isn't typical at all what you've been able to bring to this conversation this week. But South Africa, there was a guy named Jack DeWitt, same generation as Paul Rolland, learned his pedagogy, went there back home, taught, and one of the young students that turned into be an adult professional player who was a friend of Samantha's in college, applied to be a violin professor at the school where I was teaching, Elmhurst University, and I hired him, and I didn't really know anything other than watching him teach somebody. I knew there was, he gets it, wow. And then later, a year later, he said, oh yeah, in Johannesburg I studied with Jack DeWitt. And I went, you know the Rolland Pedagogy? That's what I said to him. Well, yeah, I thought you knew that. So it is everywhere, sometimes in surprising places. So it's kind of all over the world, but not thickly in the world. It's some here, some there right now, as it is in the U.S.
Anyway, it's been really a thrill to be here and spend 4 days with you lovely people, and such enthusiasm and curiosity. It's really fantastic. And with so much gratitude to you, Jennifer. You are a top shelf.
And former student, by the way.
I was her former student at Aspen from years ago.
So very proud of what I'm seeing here, and I love going into such detail with this program. This is an overview with so much information, and it's been neat to be able to take over one now in person and online, and get that perspective. And I've loved going to the level 2 and 3, and I've done the prep work now for level 4, and excited to keep going. And it's been so useful to have Joanne and Samantha's book and videos here at the Fine Arts Center. I would say they not only moved along so much faster, but they were really enthusiastic about it as well. Especially my 9th grade class that came in. It just made a world of difference, and it's concise, and it keeps them moving and engaged, and they were really able to apply the skills in both the timbres and orchestra very, very quickly.
And stay tuned. We're hoping this cello companion and the bass companion are going to be coming out by early 2025. So it takes a long time.
Well, thanks for the plug. The worst thing I do in my life is market. I'm terrible at it, and I know that, and I just leave that to other people, and I really appreciate your very kind words about it. So it was a labor of love, and it started over COVID too. When I was starting to do the films, I thought, well, now's my chance to get the book ready for my 2 kids.
Yeah. Well, COVID inspired a lot of stuff.
It really did. So, we do want to have a group photo.
Yeah.
So Jennifer, do you have a recommendation on, should we all come up to the stage, or do we just want to stay out of the stage?
Or just
Oh, so I have an idea. Can everybody move the music stands into a place? Do we have stand racks? Yeah. Stands, and everybody do that, and they can just do it.
And we can stack chairs too. We can stack a
you could
chair.
also step your chairs.
she's ready for the law to share. What, why am I gonna take her through all of the songs and Suzuki way?
I know that.
Most teachers actually do know that. And that's what we did plus our base policy. It's okay.
Or, oh,
Base policy. Yeah.
I don't know even around here. One of those list of grade literature that makes sure that they're and make sure that they talk skills. I mean, look at your teaching, we're learning something new. And that's when
I've done that for like 2010 or so. That's a while ago.
everything starts going back.
Royal.
It's so much about sequencing. It's so much about layering. You know, and exactly.
Yes, I have been. Yes, and they're taking turns. Just, yes. Okay, I didn't know who the other guy was. Yeah, they're. Okay. I have. Well, and I'll tell. Well, I've been local, so I'm like, we are not doing this. For the record, when you get rich and famous, you can do this all you want, but not right now. I would love for you to come back to Green Bay. This is close for us. Yeah. Yeah, for real. Well, thank you. Oh, definitely.
It made me remember too.
Well, and one of the, I think the one who was sitting in front of me, she said, I'm just so overwhelmed. I said, what you have to do one thing, just take one at a time.
I think just getting my kids moving is going to be the biggest thing. Making myself just getting the language together going out. Yeah, it'll be huge.
But thank you for that encouragement. I wasn't sure I was always doing everything.